The bridge of the U.S. Defiant hummed with quiet energy. Captain Taiho Kim stood near the main viewport, watching the stars streak past as his ship traveled through deep space. His crew worked at their stations, checking systems and monitoring their route. Everything was normal until the communications panel started blinking red. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," said Hannah Park from her tactical station. "It's marked as urgent priority. The signal is coming from multiple sources across the galaxy." Taiho turned to face her. "Put it on screen." The viewport changed. Instead of stars, a large holographic image appeared. It showed a chamber filled with alien beings. Taiho had never seen most of these species before. They sat in a circular arrangement, like judges in a court. At the center stood a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms. Its eyes glowed with an orange light. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the creature said. Its voice was translated automatically by the ship's computer. "I am Ambassador Vrelther of the Catharian Empire. I speak on behalf of the Galactic Concordance Council." Taiho crossed his arms. "This is Captain Taiho Kim of the United Earth ship Defiant. What can I do for you, Ambassador?" The alien's expression was hard to read, but its tone was clear. It expected obedience. "Your species has recently achieved faster than light travel. This grants you provisional membership in the Concordance. However, you must follow our laws. These laws have kept peace in the galaxy for 10,000 years. "What laws?" Taiho asked. Another alien appeared on screen, this one covered in scales. "The Harmony Protocols. All member species must comply. First, you cannot send military ships beyond your home star system. Second, you must give us all weapons technology above Class 3 rating. Third, your culture must go through assimilation programs. Fourth, you will accept a Concordance governor to guide your development. Fifth, you must stop all artificial intelligence research immediately." The bridge went silent. Taiho's crew exchanged glances. His first officer, Jiwon Nam, stepped closer to him. "Captain," Jiwon whispered, "they're asking us to surrender everything that makes us independent." Taiho nodded slightly, but kept his eyes on the screen. "How long do we have to consider this?" 30 standard days, Vrelther said. "This is not a negotiation. All species follow these laws. There are no exceptions. If you refuse, the consequences will be severe." "I see," Taiho said calmly. "Is there anything else?" The ambassador seemed surprised by the question. "You should understand the seriousness of this situation. The Concordance has the power to enforce these laws. We have fleets that span thousands of worlds. Resistance is not possible." "Thank you for the information," Taiho said. "We'll be in touch." He signaled to Hana, who cut the transmission. The holographic aliens vanished, replaced once again by the stars. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Woojin Lee, the chief engineer, laughed. "They just told us to hand over our weapons and let them control our planet." "That's bold." "It's more than bold," said Yuna Choi, the science officer. She was already working at her console, pulling up data. "Captain, I've been analyzing the information we gathered during our first contact missions. Something doesn't add up about this Concordance." "Show me," Taiho said. Yuna put her findings on the main screen. "Look at this. We visited 12 different systems on our exploration mission. In each one, we found species that seemed scared to talk about the Concordance. They followed the rules, but not because they wanted to. They followed them because they were afraid." "Fear-based peace," Jiwon said quietly. "That's not really peace at all." "There's more," Yuna continued. "I cross-referenced historical data we collected. The Concordance Council is made of 5 species. These 5 were the first to achieve faster-than-light travel. Every species that came after them had to follow the Harmony Protocols. But here's the interesting part. Several species tried to refuse in the past. What happened to them? Taiho asked. They were isolated, cut off from all galactic trade and communication. Some were even attacked. Their technology was restricted, and they never advanced beyond their home systems. The Concordance called it protective quarantine, but it looks a lot like punishment to me. Hannah pulled up tactical data. Captain, if they decide to enforce these protocols by force, we're in trouble. Our fleet is small. We have maybe 20 ships that can fight. They have thousands. Taiho walked to his captain's chair and sat down. He stared at the stars for a long moment. His crew waited. They knew their captain was thinking, calculating, planning. Finally, he smiled. It was a dangerous smile, the kind that his crew had learned meant he had an idea. Yuna, pull up everything we know about Concordance technology. Every scan, every data point, everything. Woojin, I want you to review our weapon systems and our new quantum drive. Hannah, start running simulations. I want to know what our 5 newest ships can do against Concordance vessels. You're planning to refuse, Ji-won said. It wasn't the question. I'm planning to do more than refuse, Taiho replied. I'm planning to show them that humans don't take orders. We make choices. They'll send a fleet, Ji-won warned. They'll try to force us. Let them try, Taiho said. We're not the species they think we are. They've been dealing with civilizations that achieved FTL travel slowly, carefully. They don't understand humans. We went from atmospheric flight to faster-than-light travel in less than 200 years. We don't do things the slow way. Woojin grinned. What are you thinking, Captain? I'm thinking that the Concordance is used to species that follow rules. They've never met a species that makes new rules. Taiho stood up. Open a channel. I'm sending a response. Hannah worked her console. Channel open, sir. Taiho composed a short message. He kept it simple and direct. Ambassador Vrelther and the Concordance Council, this is Captain Taiho Kim. We have reviewed your harmony protocols. Earth's response is as follows. No, we will not surrender our weapons. We will not accept your governor. We will not stop our research. We will not limit our ships. Earth remains free. If you have a problem with that, you're welcome to come discuss it in person. Captain Kim out. He signaled to Hannah to send it. Ji-won stared at him. Captain, you just declared independence from a 10,000-year-old galactic government. No, Taiho corrected with that dangerous smile still on his face. I just told them the truth. Earth was never under their government to begin with. They seem to have forgotten that membership is a choice, not a requirement. The message was sent. Somewhere across the galaxy, the Concordance Council would receive it. Taiho knew what would come next. They would send ships. They would try to intimidate Earth into submission, but they were about to learn something important about humans. When someone tells humanity what they cannot do, humanity takes it as a challenge. The Defiant continued through space, heading back toward Earth. Taiho had 30 days to prepare. It would be enough. All crew, he announced over the ship's intercom. This is the captain. Set course for home at maximum speed. When we get there, we have work to do. The galaxy thinks we'll surrender. Let's show them how wrong they are. The crew responded with quiet efficiency. They knew their captain. They knew his tone. Something big was coming, and humanity was ready for it. 28 days had passed since Taiho sent his message to the Concordance. Earth shipyards had been working day and night. The 5 newest human ships were now equipped with technology that made them faster and deadlier than before. Captain Taiho Kim stood on the bridge of the Defiant, positioned at the edge of Earth's solar system. 4 other ships floated nearby: the Indomitable, the Relentless, the Horizon, and the Valiant. 5 ships total. It seemed like a small force, but Taiho knew it would be enough. "Captain, sensors are detecting incoming ships," Hana Park reported from Tactical. 50 vessels. Concordance signatures. They're dropping out of FTL in 3 minutes. "Battle stations," Taiho ordered calmly. "But keep weapons offline. Let's see what they want to do first." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. Everyone knew their role. They had trained for this moment. Exactly 3 minutes later, space rippled. 50 large ships appeared in formation. They were impressive, covered in armor and bristling with weapons. At the center was a massive flagship, twice the size of the others. "Incoming transmission," said Hyan Cho from communications. "Put it through," Taiho said. The screen showed a reptilian alien in military armor. Its scales were dark red, and its eyes were cold. "I am Fleet Commander Vexiller of the Concordance Enforcement Division. Your time is up, humans. You will surrender your vessels and prepare to receive our boarding teams. Resistance will be met with destruction." Taiho sat in his captain's chair, looking relaxed. "Commander, I'm afraid you've wasted a trip." "We're not surrendering anything." Vexiller's expression hardened. "You have 5 ships. I have 50. Your ships are primitive. Mine are battle-tested across 1,000 campaigns. You cannot win this. Winning and losing aren't the only outcomes," Taiho replied. "There's also teaching someone a lesson." The alien commander seemed confused by this response. "You would sacrifice your crews for pride?" "No," Taiho said. "I would defend my species' freedom. There's a difference. But before we get to the unpleasant part, let me show you something." "Yuna, send them the data package." Science Officer Yuna Choi transmitted a large file to the Concordance flagship. "Send, Captain." "What is this?" Vexiller demanded. "That's research my science team compiled," Taiho explained. "It shows the history of the Concordance's harmony protocols. We found something interesting. Every species that joined the Concordance in the last 5,000 years was weaker than the Council species. Every single one. Species that were strong or advanced enough to compete were isolated or destroyed. The Concordance doesn't keep peace. It prevents competition." Yuna stepped forward. "The data shows 12 species that refused the protocols. 9 were quarantined to their home systems. 3 were attacked until they submitted. You don't spread harmony, Commander. You enforce control." Vexilla was silent for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice harder. "Your research changes nothing. The protocols exist for good reasons. Uncontrolled species cause chaos and war. We bring order. You bring stagnation," Taiho countered. "You keep species weak so they can't threaten the Council's power. That ends today." "Bold words from someone surrounded by my fleet," Vexiller said. "I'm done talking. Power down your weapons and engines, or I will fire on your ships." Taiho looked at Woojin Lee, his chief engineer. "Woojin, show the commander what we've been working on." Woojin grinned and activated a program. On the concordance sensors, the 5 human ships suddenly vanished. Then they reappeared 10,000 kilometers away. Then they vanished again and reappeared in a completely different position. "What is this?" Vexiller demanded. "Quantum displacement drives," Taiho explained. "We took the basic FTL technology and improved it. Our ships can make microjumps instantly. Your ships need several seconds to calculate jumps. We're twice as fast as anything you have." "We're twice as fast as anything you have." "We're twice." The Concordance fleet tried to track the human ships, but they kept blinking in and out of position. It was like trying to catch smoke. "Stop this," Vexiller ordered. "I'm just getting started," Taiho said. "Seungho, demonstrate the Mjolnir system." Weapons Officer Sung-Ho Kang activated the new railgun system installed on all 5 human ships. Target locked, Captain. Uninhabited moon designated Sierra 7. Fire, Taiho commanded. The 5 human ships all fired at once. Brilliant beams of accelerated metal shot across space at incredible speed. They hit the small moon in quick succession. The moon didn't crack or break. It simply ceased to exist. The railgun rounds carried so much kinetic energy that they vaporized the entire object. On the Concordance flagship, alarm systems started blaring. The sensors had registered the energy output. Every officer on Vexiller's bridge knew what they had just witnessed. Your shields cannot stop those weapons, Taiho said matter-of-factly. We tested them against samples of Concordance shield technology. The rounds pass through like the shields aren't there. Something about the velocity and the magnetic coating. Our engineers can explain it better than I can. Vexiller's face showed uncertainty for the first time. You would start a war over this? The entire Concordance will come for you. Let them come, Taiho said. But before they do, I want you to take a message back to your council. Tell them that humanity rejects the Harmony Protocols. Tell them we will defend ourselves. Tell them that any species that wants to be free from Concordance control can contact Earth. We're starting something new. An alliance of equals, not masters and servants. You're insane, Vexiller said. You cannot fight the entire galaxy. We're not fighting the galaxy, Taiho corrected. We're fighting the 5 species that control it. And we've already found allies. Other species that were restricted and quarantined. They're tired of being controlled too. Did you know about the Vryn Collective? Or the Torvin clans? Of course you do. You're the ones who isolated them centuries ago. Well, they're not isolated anymore. They're with us now. This was a bluff. Taiho hadn't contacted those species yet. But Vexiller didn't need to know that the fleet commander was calculating his options. He had 50 ships, but the human vessels were faster and had weapons that could destroy his fleet. If he attacked and lost, the Concordance would look weak. If he retreated, the Concordance would also look weak. He was in an impossible position. You are making a grave mistake, Vexiller finally said. Maybe, Taiho admitted. But it's our mistake to make. That's what freedom means. Now, I'm going to give you a choice, Commander. You can leave peacefully and deliver my message. Or you can try to attack us, and we'll show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humans. What's it going to be? The silence stretched out. Every second felt like an hour. The human crews watched their sensors. The Concordance fleet remained in formation, weapons powered but not firing. Finally, Vexiller spoke. You have made an enemy of the Concordance today. No, Taiho said quietly. The Concordance made an enemy of freedom a long time ago. We're just the first species strong enough to say no. The transmission cut off. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the Concordance fleet began to turn. Their engines powered up, and one by one, they jumped to FTL. Within minutes, the entire fleet was gone. Taiho let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Captain, they're really leaving, Hana said, sounding almost surprised. They had no choice, Ji-won said. We called their bluff. This isn't over, Taiho warned his crew. This is just the beginning. Vexiller will report back to the council. They'll send a bigger fleet next time. We need to prepare. What do we do now? Yuna asked. Taiho smiled. Now we do what I told Vexiller we'd do. We find those isolated species and offer them a real alliance. We build the Free Systems Coalition. And we show the galaxy that there's another way. The Defiant turned toward deeper space. There was work to do, and Taiho knew they had to move fast. The Concordance wouldn't stay quiet for long. But today, humanity had won its first victory. They had faced down the galaxy's enforcers and survived. More than survived. They had sent them running, and across the galaxy, on worlds that had been restricted and controlled for centuries, beings would hear about what happened today. They would hear that someone finally stood up to the Concordance. They would hear that Earth said no. And some of them would start to wonder, if humans could defy the Concordance, maybe they could too. 2 weeks after the standoff with Vexillar's fleet, the Concordance Council met in emergency session. The news of their humiliation had spread quickly. Species across the galaxy were talking about the humans who defied the Council and survived. The Council's response was calculated and cruel. If they couldn't defeat Earth militarily yet, they would destroy them economically. Within days, every Concordance-aligned system was forbidden from trading with Earth. No resources, no technology, no communication. Earth was alone. Or so the Council thought. Captain Taiho Kim stood in the briefing room of the Defiant with his senior officers. Diplomatic Officer Minji Song was presenting their next move. Captain, we've identified 17 species that were quarantined by the Concordance over the past 1,000 years, Minji explained. She brought up a star map showing isolated systems. Most are restricted to their home systems. They're forbidden from trading with other species. The Concordance calls it protective isolation, but our research shows these species refused the Harmony protocols. They fought back and lost, Jiwan Lam observed. Exactly, Minji continued. But they never surrendered. They've been waiting for centuries, building their strength in isolation. If we can convince them to join us, we'll have allies. Taiho studied the map. Which system do we visit first? The Vrin Collective, Minji suggested. They were one of the most advanced species before the Concordance quarantined them. They have strong industrial capacity and a proud warrior culture. If we can get them to join us, others will follow. Set course for Vrin space, Taiho ordered. 3 days later, the Defiant dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Vrin system. Immediately, alarms sounded. 6 heavily armed ships appeared on sensors, surrounding them. This is the Vrin Defense Fleet, a voice said over communications. You have entered restricted space. State your purpose or be destroyed. Haiyan Cho, the communication specialist, opened a channel. This is the United Earthship Defiant. We request an audience with your leadership. We have a proposal that could change your future. There was a long pause. Then, hold position. Do not power weapons. A representative will meet with you. An hour later, Taiho, Minji, and Hana were aboard of Vrin Station. They were escorted through corridors filled with armed guards. The Vrin were tall beings with gray skin and multiple eyes. They moved with military precision. They entered a large chamber. At its center sat Matriarch Kiran, the leader of the Vrin Collective. She was old, her skin marked with scars from past battles. Her multiple eyes studied the humans carefully. Humans, she said, her voice deep and resonant. We know of you. We heard about your confrontation with Fleet Commander Vexillar. Impressive, but foolish. The Concordance does not forgive defiance. With respect, Matriarch, Taiho replied. You would know about that. The Concordance quarantined your people 600 years ago. They've kept you locked in this system ever since. Don't you want that to change? Kiran's eyes narrowed. Of course we do. But wanting something and achieving it are different. The Concordance crushed our rebellion in less than a month. What makes you think you can succeed where we failed? Minji stepped forward. Because times have changed. When you fought the Concordance, you fought alone. We're proposing something different. An alliance of equals. The Free Systems Coalition. An alliance of restricted species? Kiran laughed, but there was bitterness in it. The Concordance would destroy us all, would they? Hannah asked. She activated a holographic display showing the standoff at Earth's solar system. This is what happened when they sent 50 ships to force Earth into submission. We sent them away without firing a shot. The Vryn leaders watched the recording. Kiran leaned forward as she saw the human ships disappear and reappear using quantum displacement drives. She watched the demonstration of the Mylar railguns destroying the moon. "Your technology is impressive," Kiran admitted. "But technology alone won't win against the Concordance. They have thousands of ships. And we have something they don't," Taiho said. "Innovation, determination, and a willingness to fight for freedom. The Concordance has been comfortable for too long. They enforce their laws through fear. But we're not afraid. And we're betting that other species are tired of being afraid too." Kiran stood. She was nearly 7 feet tall. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Join us," Minji said. "Bring your ships and your industrial capacity into the coalition. Share your technology with us, and we'll share ours. Together, we'll stand against the Concordance. When they come for Earth, they'll have to face all of us. And when other restricted species see that we're united, they'll join too. And if we lose?" Kiran asked. "Then we lose free," Taiho replied. "Which is better than living as prisoners. You've been isolated for 600 years. How much longer are you willing to wait?" The chamber fell silent. Kiran looked at her advisors. They spoke in their own language, debating quietly. Finally, she turned back to the humans. 600 years ago, we fought alone and lost. Perhaps it is time to try a different approach." She extended a long arm. "The Vryn Collective will join your coalition. But understand this, Captain Kim. If you fail us, if this is just empty promises, we will remember." Taiho shook her arm. "We won't fail you, Matriarch." Over the next month, Taiho and his team visited system after system. Each time, they told the same story. Each time, they offered the same alliance. And each time, more species joined. The Astar Federation, a species of insectoid beings with incredible engineering skills, joined after seeing the Vryn sign on. The Torvan clan's nomadic traders who had been cut off from galactic commerce brought their merchant fleet. The Kellis Union, the Primex Assembly, the Davram Worlds, one by one, they all joined. Some meetings were easy. Some were hard. The Primex didn't trust humans at first. They had heard too many promises from the Concordance. It took 3 days of negotiations before they agreed. The Davram Worlds nearly refused entirely. They were afraid. Their last rebellion had cost them millions of lives. Taiho understood their fear, but he also knew they needed to overcome it. "I can't promise you that this will be easy," he told the Davram Council. "I can't promise that no one will die. But I can promise that if we do nothing, the Concordance will control us forever. Your children and their children will live in this same isolated system, never knowing what else exists in the galaxy. Is that the future you want?" The Davram Council voted to join. Within 2 months, the Free Systems Coalition controlled 17 star systems. 12 different species were sharing technology and resources. Human quantum drives were being installed on Vryn warships. Ostara engineers were improving human weapons. Torvan merchants were establishing trade routes between coalition worlds. And every day, more species heard about the coalition. More species started asking questions about the Concordance. Back on Earth, in a secure facility, Taiho met with the coalition leadership via holographic conference. Matriarch Kiran was there, along with leaders from each member species. "The Concordance has noticed what we're doing," Kiran reported. "They're sending ambassadors to our systems, trying to convince species to abandon the coalition. They're offering reduced restrictions in exchange for loyalty. Some species are tempted," added Nexus Jorn of the Astar Federation. "The Concordance is offering them things we cannot. access to central markets, new technologies, security guarantees. But they're also offering the same chains, Taiho pointed out. Just longer chains. We're offering actual freedom. The question is whether freedom is enough, said Elder Torvin of the Torvin clans. Captain Kim, we believe in this coalition, but we need to show results. The Concordance's economic blockade is hurting us all. Our people are struggling. Minji spoke up. The blockade only works if everyone follows it. We've been in contact with neutral systems, species that aren't part of the Concordance but trade with them. Many are sympathetic to our cause. If we can establish trade with them, we can bypass the blockade. That's risky, Kieran warned. The Concordance would view that as an act of war. They already view our existence as an act of war, Taiho said. The question isn't whether they'll attack. It's when. And I'd rather face them with a strong coalition than a weak one. Let's establish those trade routes. Let's show the galaxy that the Concordance can't control everything. Over the next weeks, coalition traders made contact with neutral systems. Some refused, too afraid of Concordance retaliation. But others agreed. They were tired of Concordance control too, even if they weren't ready to openly rebel. Trade began flowing again. Resources moved between coalition worlds and neutral systems. The economic blockade started to crumble. And the Concordance Council, watching from their distant capital, realized that their strategy had failed. Earth wasn't isolated. Earth had built something that terrified the Council more than any. Weapon. Earth had built hope. Species across the galaxy were watching the coalition. They were seeing that resistance was possible. They were seeing that the Concordance could be defied. The Council knew they had to act. But this time, talking wouldn't be enough. This time, they would have to bring the full force of their military power. The Council began assembling the Grand Armada. The Grand Armada was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 3,000 warships from the 5 founding species of the Concordance gathered at a staging point near the galactic core. The Council had decided to make an example that would be remembered. For 10,000 more years, High Chancellor Mordax of Catharia addressed the fleet. Commanders in a holographic conference. The humans and their coalition mock. Everything we have built, Mordax declared. His forearms gestured with authority. They spread rebellion like a disease. This ends now. We will crush them at the Proxima Junction, cut off their route to Earth, and show the galaxy what happens to those who defy the Concordance. Fleet Commander Vexler, given a chance to redeem his earlier failure, commanded the Armada. He had spent months planning this attack. The Proxima Junction was a strategic choke point, a region of space where hyperspace lanes converged. Control it, and you controlled access to dozens of systems. Including Earth. The Armada jumped to the Proxima Junction, confident in their overwhelming numbers. But they were not unopposed. Captain Ariam Wang stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable. She was young for a ship captain, only 32, but she had trained under Taiho himself. When Taiho formed the coalition, Ariam had volunteered to lead the defensive fleet. All ships, report status, Ariam commanded. Around her, a mixed fleet of 500 vessels held position. There were human destroyers, Rin dreadnoughts, Ostara carriers, Torvin frigates, and ships from 8 other coalition species. They were outnumbered 6-1, but Ariam had a plan. Captain, the Concordance fleet is dropping out of FDL, reported her tactical officer. 3,000 ships. They're forming a standard attack formation. Of course they are, Ariam said calmly. They always use the same tactics. That's their weakness. All ships activate the Wraith Protocol. Across the Coalition fleet, ships powered up the quantum displacement drives that Wujin's engineering teams had installed. One moment, 500 ships floated in space. The next moment, they vanished. On the Concordance flagship, confusion erupted. Where did they go? Vexillor demanded. Sensors show? They're everywhere, Commander, his sensor officer reported. They're using micro-jumps. We can't get a lock. The Coalition ships reappeared in small groups throughout the Concordance formation. They fired their weapons, targeting the Concordance ship's engines and weapons, then jumped away before return fire could hit them. All ships return fire, Vexillor ordered, but the Concordance ships were too slow. By the time they aimed their weapons, the Coalition ships had already jumped to new positions. It was like trying to fight ghosts. Deploy the drone swarms, Ariam commanded. From the Ostara carriers, thousands of small automated drones launched into space. These were narrow AI systems, smart enough to coordinate attacks but not conscious. The Concordance had banned this technology because they couldn't counter it effectively. The drones swarmed around Concordance ships like insects, targeting sensors and communication arrays. Individual drones were weak, but in groups of hundreds, they were devastating. Commander, we're losing system control, a Concordance officer reported. The drones are interfering with our communications. Ships can't coordinate. Vexillor watched his perfect formation fall apart. Ships were firing at empty space. Some were hitting each other by accident. The coordination that made the Concordance military strong was breaking down. Focus fire on the large ships, Vexillor ordered. Ignore the drones. Destroy the Coalition capital vessels. Several Concordance battle groups followed the order. They concentrated their fire on a Vryn dreadnought. The massive ship's shields glowed under the assault. For a moment, it seemed like the Concordance would destroy it. Then 3 human destroyers jumped directly behind the attacking Concordance ships. Their Mjolnir railguns fired. The kinetic rounds punched through shields and armor. 5 Concordance ships exploded. The battle raged for hours. The Concordance had numbers. The Coalition had speed and innovation. Ships on both sides were destroyed. Space filled with debris and escape pods. Ariam watched her tactical display. How are we doing? We've destroyed 400 enemy ships, her tactical officer reported. We've lost 120 of ours. But Captain, they're adapting. They're starting to predict our jump patterns. Then we changed the pattern, Ariam said. Signal all ships. Switch to formation Delta 7 and prepare the surprise. The surprise, Captain? Ariam smiled. The one engineer Wujin sent us last week. Across the Coalition fleet, ships received new orders. They began jumping in a new pattern, more chaotic and unpredictable. And hidden among the smaller vessels, 5 human ships activated a new weapon. Back on Earth, Wujin Li had been working on an upgrade to the Mjolnir system. Instead of single rounds, the new version could fire a spread of smaller projectiles. Not as powerful individually, but there were hundreds of them in each burst. The 5 ships fired simultaneously. Thousands of hypervelocity projectiles spread across the battlefield like a deadly cloud. Concordant ships tried to dodge, but there were too many projectiles coming from too many directions. Shields failed. Armor cracked. 50 Concordant ships were destroyed in less than a minute. This is impossible, Vexillor said quietly. He had never seen technology like this. The Concordance was supposed to be the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. How were these young species, these restricted people, defeating them? Commander, we've lost 40% of the fleet, his second officer reported. Morale is failing. Some captains are requesting permission to withdraw. Vexillor knew he had 2 choices. He could continue fighting and lose more ships, or he could retreat and admit defeat. Both options were terrible, but as he watched another wave of coalition attacks destroy more of his vessels, he realized there was no choice. This battle was lost. All ships, jump to Rally Point Theta, he ordered. We're withdrawing. The Concordance fleet began jumping away. Within 20 minutes, the battlefield was clear. Ariam allowed herself to relax. Casualty report. We lost 160 ships total, her tactical officer said. We destroyed nearly 1,200 Concordance vessels. Captain, we won. Around her bridge, the crew cheered. Across the coalition fleet, similar celebrations were happening. But Ariam knew the truth. This was just one battle. The Concordance had thousands more ships. They would be back. Still, for the first time in 10,000 years, the Concordance had lost a major battle. The news would spread across the galaxy. Other species would hear that the mighty Concordance could be defeated. Meanwhile, Captain Taiho was executing the second phase of his plan. While the Concordance focused on the Proxima Junction, he was leading a small strike team deep into Concordance space. Taiho, along with Hana Park, Jiwan Nam, and a group of Special Forces soldiers from multiple coalition species, had infiltrated the Catharian core, the capital world of the Concordance. Their mission was dangerous and possibly suicidal. But if they succeeded, they would change everything. We're approaching the Grand Archive, Jiwan whispered as they moved through the underground tunnels beneath the capital city. Security is heavy. Yuna's data says the information we need is inside, Taiho replied. We get in, copy the files, and get out. Hannah checked her weapon. And if we get caught? Then we improvise, Taiho said with a slight smile. We're good at that. The team moved carefully through the tunnels. They avoided security patrols and disabled cameras. Finally, they reached the archive, a massive building filled with the accumulated knowledge of 10,000 years. Inside, they found what they were looking for. Deep in the restricted section, protected by multiple security systems, were the Concordance's deepest secrets. Taiho accessed the data core while Jiwan and Hannah kept watch. I'm in, Taiho said, downloading everything. What he found was worse than he imagined. The Concordance Council had built their empire on a lie. They possessed precursor technology, ancient weapons left behind by the galaxy's first civilization. These weapons were automated defense systems that the Council didn't fully understand. For 10,000 years, they had used the threat of these weapons to keep species in line. But the truth was, they couldn't fully control them. If anyone defied the Concordance badly enough, the automated systems might activate and destroy entire planets. The Council had been playing a dangerous game, keeping the galaxy peaceful through fear of weapons they barely understood. This is incredible, Jiwan said as she read the data. If species knew the truth, they'd realize the Concordance is built on a foundation of fear and ancient technology. Taiho finished. Not wisdom or strength. Copy everything. Every file, every secret. We're exposing all of it. Alarms suddenly blared. Security had detected them. Time to go, Hana said. The team fought their way out of the archive. Coalition intelligence had arranged for an extraction ship. They made it aboard just as Concordance security forces closed in. As their ship jumped to safety, Taiho activated the final part of his plan. Every piece of information they had stolen was transmitted across the galaxy to every major news network. Every government, every species, within hours. The truth was spreading faster than the Concordance could contain it. The mighty Concordance Council, the civilization that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000. The galaxy was in chaos. The information Taiho had stolen from the Grand Archive spread like wildfire across millions of worlds. Every species that had trusted the Concordance now felt betrayed. Every species that had feared the Concordance now felt anger. On the Concordance Council's capital world, High Chancellor Mordax watched his empire crumble. Messages flooded in from every sector. Member species were demanding answers. Some were withdrawing their support. Others were openly joining the coalition. How did this happen? Mordax demanded of his council members. How did a single human captain infiltrate our most secure facility and steal our most protected secrets? The humans are more capable than we believed, answered Councillor Vresh of the Saurian Dominion. And we underestimated their determination. Underestimated? Mordax's forearms gestured violently. We sent 3,000 ships to crush them. They destroyed 40% of our Grand Armada. This is not underestimation. This is failure. Another councillor spoke up. High Chancellor, we're receiving reports of uprisings across 17 sectors. Species are refusing to follow the Harmony protocols. Our enforcement fleets are overwhelmed. If we don't act soon, we'll lose control entirely. Mordax knew the truth. The Concordance was dying. 10,000 years of control, ending in weeks because of one stubborn species that refused to submit. Contact Captain Taiho Kim, Mordax said quietly. Tell him I want to meet. The council chamber fell silent. They all understood what this meant. 3 days later, Taiho arrived at a neutral station in unclaimed space. The station had been chosen specifically because it wasn't controlled by either the Concordance or the Coalition. Neutral observers from dozens of species were present to witness the meeting. Taiho walked into the conference room with only Minji Song and Ji-Wan. Across the table sat High Chancellor Mordax with 2 of his advisors. For a moment, the 2 leaders studied each other. Mordax saw a human who looked too young to have caused so much damage. Taiho saw an alien who looked too old to adapt to a changing galaxy. Captain Kim, Mordax began, you have done something remarkable. In a matter of months, you have destroyed an order that stood for 10 millennia. With respect, Chancellor, Taiho replied, I didn't destroy anything. Your order destroyed itself. It was built on lies and fear. It was only a matter of time before someone challenged it. Perhaps, Mordax admitted, but the galaxy needs order. Without the Concordance, there will be chaos. Species will fight each other. There will be wars, suffering, death. Is that what you want? No, Taiho said firmly. But there's a difference between order and oppression. The Concordance kept peace by keeping everyone weak. That's not real peace. It's just controlled fear. Minji added, we've analyzed the data from the Grand Archive. The precursor weapons you've been using to threaten species, you don't actually know how to use them. You've been bluffing for thousands of years. And now everyone knows it. Mordax's expression hardened. So you've come to gloat? No, Taiho said. I came to offer you a choice. You can try to hold on to power and watch your empire tear itself apart. Or you can help us build something better. Better? Mordax laughed bitterly. You want me to surrender the Concordance to your coalition? I want you to dissolve the Concordance and join us in creating a new galactic government, Taiho corrected. One based on equality, not hierarchy, where all species have a voice, not just the 5 founders. Where laws are negotiated by everyone, not imposed by the powerful. That's idealistic nonsense, Mordax said. You can't outrun a galaxy by committee. Someone must lead. Then we'll take turns leading, Taiho replied. A rotating council. Different species in charge each cycle. Shared power, shared responsibility. It will never work, Mordax insisted. Maybe not, Taiho admitted. But at least we'll fail trying to do something right, instead of succeeding at doing something wrong. The Concordance is over, Chancellor. You can accept that gracefully and help shape what comes next. Or you can fight it and be swept away. Your choice. Mordax was silent for a long time. His advisors whispered to him urgently, but he waved them away. Finally, he spoke. What guarantees do I have that this new government will be any better? None, Taiho said honestly. We're making this up as we go. We'll make mistakes. But the difference is, when we make mistakes, we'll admit them and fix them. The Concordance made mistakes and covered them up for 10,000 years. That's not sustainable. Mordax stood. He walked to the window of the conference room and looked out at the stars. Taiho could see the weight of millennia on the old alien's shoulders. I spent my entire life serving the Concordance, Mordax said quietly. I believed we were doing good. Keeping the peace. Protecting weaker species from themselves. Was it all a lie? Not all of it, Jiwan said gently. The galaxy did have peace under the Concordance. But it was the peace of a prison, not a home. You kept people safe by keeping them controlled. That worked for a while. But now it's time for something new. Mordax turned back to face them. If I agree to this, if I help dissolve the Concordance, what happens to my people? To the founding species? They become equal members of the new Federation, Minji explained. Same rights and responsibilities as everyone else. No special privileges. But also no punishment for the past. We move forward together. My people won't like that, Mordax warned. Then convince them, Taiho said. You're a leader, Chancellor. Lead them into this new era. Or step aside and let someone else do it. Another long silence. Then Mordax nodded slowly. Very well. I will propose the dissolution of the Concordance Council and the formation of this new federation. But I have conditions. Name them, Taiho said. First, the precursor weapons must be placed under shared control with representatives from all major species. No one species can have access to them alone. Agreed, Taiho said immediately. Second, we establish a transition period. 6 months to reorganize governments, write a new charter, and establish the new federation properly. Rushing this will cause chaos. Reasonable, Minji nodded. Third, Mordax continued. Species that want to remain neutral must be allowed to do so. We cannot force everyone to join this federation. That would make us no better than the Concordance. Absolutely, Taiho agreed. Freedom includes the freedom to stay independent. Mordax extended one of his 4 arms. Then we have an agreement, Captain Kim. Let us hope your optimism is justified. Taiho shook the alien's hand. Let's find out together. The next 6 months were intense. Delegations from hundreds of species met to draft the charter for the Galactic Federation. There were arguments, disagreements, and moments when it seemed like the whole thing would fall apart. But slowly, painfully, a new structure emerged. The Federation would have a rotating council, with leadership changing every 5 years. Laws would require approval from a majority of member species. Military forces would be defensive only and controlled jointly. Technology sharing would be encouraged but voluntary. Most importantly, the charter included a simple principle that Taiho insisted on. No species shall impose its will upon another. Cooperation must be voluntary. Freedom is not negotiable. Not every species joined immediately. Some remained independent. Some formed their own smaller alliances. But most joined the Federation, excited by the possibility of real equality. The Concordance was officially dissolved in a ceremony, broadcast across the galaxy. High Chancellor Mordax gave a speech admitting the failures of the old system and expressing hope for the new one. Then he stepped down from power. The first Federation Council was elected. It included representatives from 20 species, including humans. But Taiho declined to serve on it. I'm not a politician, he told Minji when she asked why. I'm an explorer. The galaxy is finally open. I want to see it. 6 months after the dissolution of the Concordance, Captain Taiho Kim stood on the bridge of the Defiant. His crew was the same team that had started this journey. Hana at tactical, Woojin in engineering, Yuna at Science, G1 as First Officer. Course plotted, Captain, G1 reported. We're heading for the Outer Rim. There are reports of unexplored systems out there. Good, Taiho said. That's what we built this ship for. Exploration, not war. Hannah smiled. Think anyone will try to stop us? Not anymore, Taiho replied. The galaxy's finally free to explore itself. No more restrictions. No more protocols. Just open space and endless possibilities. As the Defiant prepared to jump to FDL, a message came in. It was from Captain Ariam Wang. Taiho, the Federation Council is already arguing about trade policies. They want your advice. Taiho laughed. Tell them to figure it out themselves. That's the point of democracy. I have better things to do. Like what? Like finding out what's on the other side of the galaxy. Like making first contact with species the Concordants never met. Like doing what humanity does best. Going where we're not supposed to go and seeing what happens. Ariam's image smiled. Try not to start any more revolutions. No promises, Taiho said with a grin. The Defiant jumped to FDL, leaving Earth's solar system behind. Ahead of them lay unknown space, uncharted worlds, and unlimited potential. On Earth, in the Federation archives, historians were already writing about the events of the past year. They called it the Freedom Revolution. They wrote about the human captain who defied the galaxy's oldest government and won. But